Hello and welcome to the Mix 6 podcast with your host, me, Tom Pinks, as part of The Mix, the leading digital support service for under 25s in the UK. This is the show where it's all about one guest, 6 questions and 30 minutes. From social anxiety to social media, whatever it is, if it's on a young person's agenda, then it's on our agenda too. And our topic for today is undoubtedly on top of a lot of young people's agendas. And to save me from just talking to myself about it, because that's good for nobody, we are in the company of a very exciting and forward-thinking guest in the form of Bella Lack. Hello.
Hello, thank you for having me.
Very good to have you here. For those that don't know you yet, can you enlighten them?
Yes, I can. I am Bella. I'm 21. I am 21 and therefore am having my own identity crisis, but I can try and enlighten you. So I started doing activism campaigning when I was about 11, 12. And it was in the form of, protesting, very stereotypical activism what you imagine when you hear the word. And then I started working with organisations, with the Born Free Foundation, with Reserva Youth Land Trust, which we'll get onto later. And I did a bit of presenting work, writing, and I've sort of, as I've grown up, my methods of environmentalism have evolved to fit what I enjoy, because I've realised something else we should probably discuss. I've realised that to make change sustainable, you really need to feel passionately about the methods you're using. But yes, right now I'm at university. I'm moving to France in 2 days, and I speak to Tom as I'm trying to get my visa in London, and it's been a bit of a nightmare, but we're close.
We just said before we hit record that we are entirely grateful and also very impressed how you managed to squeeze in a podcast in amongst this frantic rush to get to France. So thank you so much, Bella.
Yeah, I was saying I have to learn French for my degree. Starting in 2 days, and I'm here doing a podcast. But I'm much more excited about this than the French, so...
Good. Well, I was just about to say, maybe we can come at the podcast with a different angle and maybe turn it into a French conversation or a French lesson, maybe. How is your French? Would you say like easy to moderate, light to moderate? I have no idea when it comes to French, no.
Okay. Well, in that case, I can say it's moderate.
It's moderate, okay.
Yeah.
Je suis Tom. Je suis Tom? Am I on the right track?
Yeah.
I guess I'm moderate too then.
You're getting there, yeah.
No, to save the listener and ourselves, and myself in particular, we'll keep to English. We are going to kick things off with the quick fire 6. So we will dive straight in with number 1, indoors or outdoors?
Outdoors. Do I need to justify or just... No.
I mean, I think we can all guess why you chose outdoors.
Yeah, that's a very polite way of saying, shut up, Bella.
No, not at all. Not at all. No, I mean, I get the sense that you spend a lot of time outdoors.
Yes.
Question number 2, space travel or time travel?
Time travel. I just think, I mean, space travel, you can't guarantee what we would find, but time travel, we know that there's so much to be seen, to be experienced. Is this going forward or backwards as well? I mean, just backwards or
up to you.
Interesting.
Up to you. Where would you go out of interest?
I think I would go backwards first, because forwards I can't guarantee. I mean, I can't get, the uncertainty.
Yeah.
I do like a bit of uncertainty, but I would go back first to the very beginning and then jump to, let's say, 22,000. No, yeah.
22,000. Well, you wouldn't jump 2 days ahead to see if you made it to France or not, no?
No, I'm certain about that, so...
You're certain, yeah. It's 100%. Yeah. Number 3, favourite sound?
Oh, I've never been asked this. When you put your finger in your mouth and you make that pop? Is that...
Yes, I can't do it.
Like a legitimate... No, that's a weird one. I just find that really satisfying. Um, I have a sound. I have a sound which is really powerful. It's not a sound I like. Um, but I've used this a lot when I'm trying to speak to people, and it's this. I've started lots of speeches with this song of a kawaii bird, and it's the sound that was recorded. I think it was recorded in about 2013, and it's the last male of a bird species singing, the last male in the whole world, and it's this really haunting, kind of lonesome cry. And I've started just when I was like 15, I stumbled across this sound and just played it, and people find it really moves them before you speak, to actually not just listen to me yapping on, but to listen to the last individual of a species calling out to a partner that doesn't exist. And that's a sound. I don't know. It's a sound that resonates with me. I don't think it's my favorite.
Question number 4. If you could only take one mode of transport for the rest of your life, what would it be?
Train. Absolutely train. I
Train.
love sitting on a. I love well, most of all, I love music, so I love sitting on a train listening to music. Can I guess
Beautiful
what you would
answer.
take?
Go on.
Motorbike.
No. What gave you that impression?
I can just imagine you zooming along around Paris in a motorbike.
A little retro moped or a Harley Davidson? What are we
Oh,
talking about?
like a Harley Davidson. I think it's the
Like a
beard.
Harley?
I could see you Harley
Yeah.
Davidsoning around France. Hmm.
Do you know what? You've got me completely wrong. I'm very happy just cycling around London with my basket. That just makes me the happiest person in the world. Um, but
Really?
perhaps I need to
God.
reconsider. I don't know
Thought I was
if it's a good
pretty
look.
perceptive.
Question number 5. What is the food that you just can't live without?
Mango, probably.
And then question number 6, the final question. Favorite animal?
I think orangutan or elephant. I actually have a tiny elephant tattoo, which my parents, yeah, hopefully they won't listen to this podcast. But yeah, I love elephants and orangutans. Something about their intelligence, and if you've ever looked into the eye of either of those, or a whale, I've never looked into a whale's eye, but I can imagine it would be the same. The striking intelligence you see is extraordinary.
I'm really glad you finished that sentence with tattoo. There was a short pause there once you said, I have a tiny elephant. And then there was a pause. I was like, what? Tattoo.
Damn it,
Um,
she has no consistency. No, I don't have an elephant in my garden, and I never would. To clarify,
no.
no.
There we go. We have it on record. Bella Lack does not own an elephant. We are going to head into the mix 6. So these are 6 questions, Bella, about you and about what you stand for, what you believe in.
Mm-hmm.
And the topic today is the climate. Question number 1, I wanted to just go straight in with, how optimistic are you about the future of this planet?
Big one. A big one, and also a common one. Not just for me, but you hear this question asked a lot, and I find it interesting because um I don't think the scale of my optimism is that important. I think I'm more realistic than optimistic. And it's better to focus on sort of what I mentioned earlier. It's better to focus on a solution you have at hand and try and turn that into action. Um, One thing that does give me hope, I think, is the fact that there are lots of solutions out there. And there's a really brilliant quote by a climate scientist called Mary Hegler, who says, rather than being overwhelmed by the complexity of the problem, focus on the solutions. And I think that's exactly what we should do. And we're in a crisis. I mean, it's true. Eco anxiety is rife. Young people are many people are very nervous, except politicians, it seems. Um, but I don't think that's unwarranted. I think we need to be scared, because when you're on the precipice, the future of our planet is very uncertain. We have reports coming out, at least one a month. By the IPCC, we've had many reports saying we have 12 years, then we have 10, 8 years left to prevent irreversible climate change. I think the scale of those is terrifying, and we should be scared, but we have reasons for hope and optimism, and we just need to cling on to those and really make sure we pursue those.
You've written a book. Well done. It takes me about 5 working days to write a to-do list, so I don't know how you managed that.
God, same,
uh,
same.
uh, and the book is incredible. It's called The Children of the Am I getting this right? The Children of the Anthropocene.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Perfect.
It really hits home. Do you know what? It's so heartwarming, but at the same time, so stark, and is not afraid to hit home the truth and the facts and how it is affecting people from all over the world, young people in particular. The book stated quite early on that 7 million people will die due to air pollution
Mhm.
every year. Sea levels could rise 34 centimeters by 2050. 1 million species will be threatened with extinction by 2050, and the oceans could contain more plastic than fish. This sounds like an emergency, so why doesn't it feel like it?
It really does to me. But I think so. I use those statistics in the book to illustrate something called psychic numbing, which is that you can bombard people with these massive statistics, but they're not really going to feel personally obligated to do anything because the larger psychologically, the more we're overwhelmed by the scale of something, the less likely we are to do something. People would rather do nothing than do something that's going to be ineffective. Um, and we saw it with Cecil the lion and Harambe the gorilla. People were infuriated at the deaths of those two animals, but there are lions and gorillas slaughtered daily by trophy hunters, by poachers, and people are silent, largely silent on issues like that. So I think once again it comes back to communication, and it comes back to people who were affected telling their stories, and those stories being uplifted and distributed in places that need to hear them. And one example is we crossed a climate threshold of CO2 concentration in the atmosphere of 440 parts per million. And when you hear that statistic, I don't know how you feel, um, but most people aren't that moved by that statistic. But someone I interviewed in the book, Ella Rose Kesey Deborah, um, is a campaigner on clean air and air pollution because her daughter Ella died in 2013, and she was 9 years old, and she was the first death to be classified as a result of air pollution in London. She lived near the South Circular Road in Lewisham in London, and that story. It's not overburdened by statistics, but it's something which really resonates with people because people, if they haven't, they can understand the immensity of grief of losing a child, and that's a result of inaction on climate change in London. That's not something intangible, it's not something in the future, it's something happening now. Um, and I think those stories, there are so many of them. They're not all despair and grief, but stories like that need to be communicated and need to be really used as tools within politics, within economics, within law to get across legislation and policy that we need to be implemented.
Obviously, the book and the stories that you've just mentioned there are around
Mm.
and based upon and come from young people. And whenever this is in the news, whenever people are talking about this, it seems like young people are at the center of it, at the heart, leading the way. Why? So, question number 3, why does it feel like it's up to young people to lead this fight, to lead this way on climate change?
Mm. I think we've created a really, to be frank, stupid binary, which is old creating the problem, young solving the problem. Um, and we need to get rid of it. I mean, there's we've created good and evil. People within fossil fuel companies are all evil, and activists are all trying to do good. Um, and it's really not the case. I mean, the majority of people aren't even thinking about the environmental crisis. They're actually just thinking instead about looking after their families, about providing an income and doing it the best they can for the people around them, which is really admirable. And I have to be honest that the reason why I could dedicate so much time to this when I was a young teenager was, I didn't have a job. I wasn't really weighed down by the fact that I might get fired if I spoke out about something. Um, and to, yeah, I wasn't weighed down by people's opinions in the same way. And I think when you get older, you're conditioned into you need to work for a job, you need to look after your family. And that's one of the reasons. And another is that young people really see the environmental crisis with a clarity because they're not burdened by the things I was talking about before, by being integrated into this and conditioned into this system yet of employment and working and constantly thinking about how you can earn money. And I mean, this is a much larger scale thing about the economy and what we value as a society.
Question number 4: where does change begin?
I really like your phrasing of this question because often the question is phrased as how do we change, which is such a broad question which there isn't an answer to, unless you're already talking within a sector. Where does change begin is better because change is going to look different within every sector you're in, whether you're a lawyer or a politician or a mother or a student or an activist. Um, so where does change begin? The answer is where you're at, because we need change right now in every single sector in society. There's nowhere yet that is acting in the way they need to in response to the crisis we're facing. Um, and yeah, so for me, I'm just going to name some places I think we could begin. I think we can separate change into persuasive and dissuasive. And for the book, I spoke to Belinda Rickamani, and she was working a lot on legal change around the environment. So she lives in the Solomon Islands, and she saw an island called Wollindi Island essentially become completely submerged because of sea level rise. And she started the Pacific Island Students Fighting Against Climate Change, which is trying to get ecocide, the destruction of the environment, recognized within the International Criminal Court. And there are other crimes like genocide, which is recognized, and ecocide was originally meant to be recognized within the court, but then it wasn't. And now she's trying to, and many other young people and lawyers actually are trying to get this recognized on the agenda. So I think one really important place to change is this dissuasive technique of legally prosecuting companies and individuals at the top of those companies who are acting with impunity right now, who are committing large scale crimes which are violating human rights. Another place is policy. We need a lot more focus on nature friendly farming. We need a lot more focus on decarbonisation and incentivizing businesses to decarbonize. But this is all stuff, that when you think about climate activism, that immediately comes to mind. And then, more importantly for me, which I'm working on, is persuasive mechanisms. So this means uplifting the stories that are working and putting yourself on the ground and making change, and then amplifying that change so that people see you can make a difference. And an organization I work with, I started with a woman called Callie in 2019 called Reserva Youth Land Trust, and it's completely comprised of young people. And the whole idea is young people raise money and we protect large swathes of land around the world. And working with local organizations. So the first one was in Ecuador, and now we're working on a project in Panama and in Colombia. And it's something which stops me completely giving up, because it's so easy to sit here and talk about the intangible change that needs to happen, how I can rail against governments because they're not doing enough. But to go out and to find people who are already making a change, organizations on the ground, and join them, and then say to other people, look, this is what we're doing. You can either get involved with us or start something similar, start your own thing within the area you're working. So yeah, where does change begin? Where you're at. I know it's a bit intangible, but I really can't. I wish I could give you an answer of exactly what we needed to do as a species, but I don't think you'll find a single person who's being genuine with you on this planet who can tell you exactly what we need to do. Um, you'll find some very good economists and lawyers, though, who could point you in the right direction.
And I think that brings us nicely to our fifth question. Is there hope? And if so, where is it?
I think the answer to this ties back to the answer to am I optimistic, which is that there is hope, and the hope lies in people taking action. Lots of them you haven't heard about because they're just getting on with it, and that is sort of testimony to human innovation and human creativity. And at lots of periods in the past where we've had unrest or disaster or instability, like the civil rights movement and the middle before the Renaissance, then we had a flourishing of creativity, and then the civil rights movement led to a flourishing of music and art, and that's kind of what humans do, as with the COVID pandemic as well. In periods of instability, we innovate and we create and we find ways around it. And I think one of the best things for us to believe in is the fact that this isn't just a crisis; it's also an opportunity to create a different world, and that is exciting. And we have no idea. I don't think we've ever been at a period where we have so little idea what the world is going to be like in 20, 30 years. And it's not just a pathway to destruction. There are many tiny little pathways now to solutions, to strengthen communities, to more biodiverse parks and cities. And we just need to find them, uplift them, and walk them ourselves. Not all of them, because you can't, but find your own niche that you can take action within and really apply yourself to that.
I keep sounding like a broken record here, but that's a lovely segue to the sixth and final question.
You love a
And
segue.
I love a segue. I almost as much as a Harley Davidson. I
But not
did
quite.
not write this one. This has
Mm-hmm.
been suggested by a young person who knew that you were coming on the podcast. I'm 19 years old, living in a small town in the middle of nowhere. I'm not a big CEO or feel like I have any power at all for that matter. So, what can I do, Bella? What can I do to make a difference?
I think I need a bit more context about the town in the middle of nowhere. Um, but I think the most important thing for someone who has an existing community is to work within that community to make change, because we don't have enough time to wait for individuals to take action alone. And I really don't have faith that we can wait for politicians to take action exclusively as well. So the solution, that means, lies within communities when individuals come together. So I would recommend looking at places where the community is lacking, whether that's biodiversity, whether it's waste. Um, you can you can also bring people together within that community, like Belinda Rickamani did, where she created, from a very small island in the Pacific, she created a group of people who are now in communication with the International Criminal Court about creating a crime of ecocide globally. So I don't think everyone's an individual. I don't think being an individual lessens how much impact you can have, or being in the middle of nowhere lessens the impact that your actions can have. So I would recommend starting within the community, and then once you have that established goal and focus, then seeing how you can kind of try to communicate and work with existing organizations who have been looking at causes for a while. And also come and join Reserva, because we're composed of people under 25. It's we have a legal focus, there's a storytelling focus, campaigning, and an on the ground conservation scientific focus. So there's lots of places for young people to get involved, and the idea was to create this community for young people who feel slightly confused at all the different solutions that are being presented and just want to take action and do something tangible for the planet.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Bella. That is it. We've reached the end of the Mix 6. Before we say our goodbyes, though, and you get to France, I wanted to ask if there's one thing you wanted to leave with our listener today, what would that be?
I would recommend going and finding a solution that really resonates with you or a project that's going on. Messaging them and asking for advice and asking how you can get involved, because I think the best thing is to just start and to take the first step forward. When I began doing Twitter, I really, no one was reading anything. I was at school. I was really ashamed that people would be finding these tweets I was doing. I don't know why I was ashamed, but I guess you're always ashamed when you're a teenager. And yeah, I started doing something, anything, and I think that's the most important thing. Just begin by messaging and asking for advice and communicating, rather than sitting there overwhelmed by all these messages you're receiving and don't just try and educate yourself. Also, at the same time, try and communicate with people and put that education into action. Can I ask you a
Amazing.
question? I'm
Go on then.
21 and I'm still a student, and I don't want to seem like I'm someone who has all the answers. So what advice would you give me? Just life advice, really.
I would say the sooner you get a Harley Davidson, the better. But
Yeah.
I would also say that
So it would be a bit
go on.
hip for me to turn up to the environmental. Maybe it would work. I'm
Yeah,
not pure in my
it's
Harley
not a good
Davidson.
look, is it? Yeah,
No,
unless it's
no,
electric. Maybe if it's electric.
it's probably happening.
Life advice, I would say don't take your thoughts too seriously, but also, yeah, I'm going to leave it there actually. Don't take your thoughts too
Mm.
seriously. Let them come and go. Bring it back to who you really are, that
Yeah,
natural self, and then you'll realize that you actually don't have a lot of differences with the next person, no matter who they are, where they come from,
yeah,
whatever.
it's great.
Yeah. Bella, I just wanted to say a huge thank you for taking your time today to talk to us. I know that you are in the thick of it at the moment, trying to sort out visas, start university, get to France. And as I said at the start, just so grateful. I think it's such an important chat that we need to keep having. And you are at the forefront of this conversation. So to have you on board and to talk about this, it's going to resonate with a lot of young people, and hopefully not just young people as well. It's ignited that conversation. It's carried it on. And as you said, communication, stories are a way to make worthwhile change. So that's exactly what we're doing right now. And hopefully it inspires other people to do that too.
Thank you so much, Tom. Thank you for having me.
You're more than welcome. Take care. Enjoy France.
You
Au
too.
revoir.
Thank you. If I'm there, au revoir.
Au
Said in a
revoir.
very British accent.